The twin suns of Serath burned low over the horizon, painting the metal plains in shades of orange and violet. The trade moon of Varine was a busy place filled with ships, voices, and deals between dozens of alien races. But in one small hangar at the edge of the port, a single human worked quietly among the noise. His name was Ethan Cross, a mechanic and ex-pilot who had come here looking for peace after too many wars. He liked machines more than people because machines did not lie. Ethan wiped grease from his hands when the alarm echoed through the docking bay. It was a distress signal, short, broken, full of panic. He turned toward the console and saw the signature, an alien shuttle marked Royal, under attack in the outer rings of the asteroid field. Every pilot in the port ignored it. The Serath Dominion was powerful, but their laws were cruel. No one wanted to cross them. Ethan hesitated for only a moment, then threw his wrench aside. His small ship, the Horizon's Edge, was old and dented, but its engines still purred like thunder. He jumped into the pilot's seat, eyes focused, and launched into the void. The engine screamed as he broke through the station barrier, stars streaking past his cockpit glass. The asteroid belt came alive with gunfire. Pirate vessels circled the Royal shuttle like vultures, plasma bolts flashing through the darkness. Ethan gritted his teeth and pushed the throttle. His ship shuddered as he dove straight into the chaos. He fired 2 torpedoes that split the lead raider in half. Metal fragments spinning into space. "Whoever you are, break off!" A frightened voice came through the comm. It was a young woman, her tone shaky but commanding. Ethan ignored the warning and locked onto the pirates attacking her flank. "Hold your course," he replied calmly. "I've got you." His pulse raced as another blast tore past him. Grazing his hull, warning lights flashed red across the control panel. Still, Ethan's eyes stayed cold and steady. He cut the power, drifted behind a cluster of rocks, and then ambushed the nearest pirate ship with a burst of ion fire, one by one. The enemy ships fell apart until silence filled the space again. The only thing left was the broken Royal shuttle spinning slowly in the dark. Ethan guided his ship closer, docking carefully. When the airlock hissed open, smoke and sparks filled the corridor. He stepped inside and saw her, Princess Lyra of Serath, her silver eyes wide with fear and awe. She was younger than he expected, wearing a ceremonial cloak torn by fire. Her hands trembled as she looked at the human standing before her. You came," she whispered. "But why? You're not one of us." Ethan shrugged. "Didn't need to be," he said simply. "Someone had to help." He carried her back to his ship, her small frame leaning against him when the engines roared again. She looked out the window as the pirate wrecks drifted away like dying stars. "You risked everything for me," she murmured. "You'll be rewarded for this." Ethan smiled faintly. "I didn't do it for a reward." When they landed back on the Serath flagship, a crowd waited, soldiers in shining armor and nobles in long robes. Lyra stepped forward proudly, introducing her savior. "This human saved my life," she declared. But before the crowd could cheer, a shadow fell over the landing bay. A tall woman entered, her presence heavy like a storm. Her skin shimmered with faint gold patterns, her armor black and elegant. She was Princess Valira, Lyra's elder sister. Known across the Dominion for her sharp mind and colder heart, the crowd bowed as she approached. Lyra ran to her, tears in her eyes. "Sister, he saved me! He risked his life for us." Valira's eyes flicked toward Ethan, measuring him like an object. "Did he now?" she said slowly. Her tone carried no warmth. "Then according to our laws, what belongs to the younger belongs to the elder." The room went silent. Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. Valira turned to him with a faint smile. "You saved my sister's life, human. That means her debt is mine, and everything connected to her." "Including you, now belongs to me." The guards stiffened. Lyra gasped. "No, that's not right." But Valira only raised a hand, silencing her. "The law of the elder cannot be broken," she said coldly. Ethan felt the air leave his chest. He had crossed galaxies to do something good, and now he was being claimed like property. The soldiers stepped closer, their spears glowing with electric blue light. Lyra ran forward, her voice trembling. "Please, he's not a thing!" He's a hero! Valira turned her gaze on her sister. He's human. And humans know the price of defiance? Ethan clenched his fists, but said nothing. He looked at Lyra, saw the fear in her eyes, and then back at Valira's cruel smile. In that moment, he made a silent promise to himself. If I belong to them now, he thought, then I'll show them what humanity truly means. Outside, the suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the royal deck. The crowd whispered. The human hero stood bound by alien law, and somewhere deep inside him, a storm began to rise. The fight for freedom had just begun. The dawn on Sarath Prime was unlike any dawn Ethan had ever seen. Two suns rising together, painting the sky in gold and violet. Yet to him it felt cold, cruel, and silent. He stood before the High Council, surrounded by aliens dressed in silk and steel. The mark on his wrist glowed faintly. A golden band seared into his skin. The royal symbol of ownership. Valira sat on her throne of crystal and light, her gaze steady and sharp. Around her, nobles whispered like serpents, curious about the human who dared to save royalty, but dared even more to question the law of the elder. You are fortunate, Valira said slowly, her voice smooth but dangerous. Few outsiders are granted the honor of belonging to the royal line. Ethan looked up, his jaw tight. Belonging? He repeated, you mean being owned? The room went still. Even the guards hesitated. Valira's eyes narrowed, but a small smirk tugged at her lips. Words can be chosen carefully, human, she said. But the law is not a choice. Lyra stood beside her sister, trembling. Please, Valira, he saved me. He deserves thanks, not chains. Her sister turned her head slightly. And you deserve to live, do you not? She said coldly. Be grateful, little sister. That I did not extend the law further. Ethan's voice was calm but full of fire. If saving someone means becoming a slave, then your law is broken. A murmur swept through the chamber. Even some of the nobles exchanged uneasy glances, but none spoke. Valira rose from her seat and walked slowly down the steps, every motion deliberate. Her golden armor caught the light, reflecting like fire. She stopped before Ethan and looked into his eyes. You have courage, she admitted. That will serve you well, perhaps as a guard, or a decoration at my side. She raised her hand, tracing the glowing mark on his wrist. You see, human, the law is not about right or wrong. It is about order without it. Our empire falls to chaos. Ethan met her gaze, unflinching. Maybe chaos is better than slavery. Her eyes flashed with fury. Careful, human, she whispered. Even your bravery has limits. The council chamber doors opened suddenly, and a messenger rushed in. Kneeling before the throne, Your Majesty, the frontier worlds demand an audience. The humans of the Alliance are asking why one of their own is being held. The room rippled with tension. Valira's expression hardened. The Alliance dares question our laws? She said sharply. Tell them this human is under royal protection. Ethan understood the meaning instantly. Protection was just another word for control. That night, in the palace quarters assigned to him, Ethan sat quietly, staring at the mark glowing faintly under moonlight. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Lyra stepped in, her face pale. They will not let you go, she whispered. Once the law is claimed, not even the Emperor can change it. Ethan looked up at her, his voice low. There's always a way. Laws are written by someone, which means they can be broken. Lyra's eyes filled with worry. Valira will destroy anyone who defies her. She holds the council, the guards, even the priests. Then she'll have to try, Ethan said simply. His tone quiet but full of steel. Lyra moved closer, trembling. You don't understand what she's capable of. She once had an admiral executed for questioning her order. Ethan turned to face her fully, his expression unreadable. Then she's already afraid of losing power. His words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. From the upper levels of the palace, Valira watched through her observation mirror, her reflection glowing in the polished crystal. She had seen their meeting, every word, every look. A dark smile crossed her lips. So the human thinks he can fight the law, she whispered to herself. Let him try. The more he resists, the more tightly he will be bound. Later, Ethan was summoned to a hall of golden glass overlooking the capital city. Valyra stood waiting, dressed in ceremonial armor. "You will accompany me to the tribunal tomorrow," she said. "I will show my subjects that even a human knows his place in the order of the Seraph." "And if I refuse?" Ethan asked quietly. Valyra stepped closer, her breath cold as the stars. "Then I will show them what happens to those who defy royal command." The next morning, thousands gathered in the grand amphitheater. The air shimmered with banners of gold and black. As Ethan stood beside Valyra, he could feel every eye fixed on him. Valyra raised her voice clear and powerful. "This human saved royal blood and now stands under the protection of the crown, as the law demands." The crowd cheered, some with awe, others with disgust. Ethan turned his gaze upward, the suns gleaming above. His voice cut through the noise. "If this is what your law calls justice, then your empire deserves the storm that's coming." Gasps spread through the stands. Valyra's eyes blazed with rage. "You dare challenge me before my people?" she hissed. Ethan met her glare, his tone calm. "I don't challenge you. I challenge your law." Lyra's heart pounded. The council guards tensed, and for a moment, all of Serath seemed to hold its breath. Then Valyra smiled, a dangerous, perfect smile. "Very well, human," she said softly. "If you want to challenge the law, there is a way." She raised her hand, her voice echoing through the arena. "Let it be known, the human will face the trial of suns, and his fate will decide whether the law of the elder stands or falls." The crowd roared. The ground shook, and Ethan felt the heat of 2 burning suns on his face. He did not flinch. He only whispered to himself, "Then let it begin." Night settled over the Serath capital like liquid glass. The twin moons cast a pale glow through the endless corridors of the royal palace, gilded walls humming softly with energy conduits. Ethan Cross walked between guards made of steel and pride, his wrists bound by luminous cuffs. Each step echoed against marble, sharp and lonely. He was taken to a high-tower chamber, his so-called quarters, a perfect prison made of luxury. From the balcony he could see the alien skyline, a city alive with fire and crystal. The air shimmered with hovercrafts and towering spires, but to him it felt suffocating. He touched the glowing mark on his wrist, the golden burn that declared him property of Valyra, and whispered under his breath, "Not forever." Down below, Princess Valyra stood before her war council, the chamber vast and circular. The generals bowed low, none daring to meet her eyes. "The Alliance has begun to question our laws," one said cautiously. "They ask why a human is branded under royal claim." Valyra's gaze was like a blade. "The Alliance will accept our sovereignty, or they will face our fleets," she replied coolly. "As for the human, he will serve as proof that even the boldest species kneels before the Serath crown." She turned to the hologram beside her, an image of Ethan in his chamber, sitting silently by the window. "He may look calm, but he's planning something," she murmured. "And I will know what." Hours later, a faint hiss echoed as Ethan's door opened. Princess Lyra slipped inside, wrapped in a dark cloak. Her silver eyes darted around nervously before she spoke. "You should not be awake." "The guards will notice." Ethan stood, his expression steady. "I don't sleep well in cages." Lyra hesitated, then stepped closer. "You don't understand what the trial of suns is. No human has ever survived it. It's not a test. It's execution disguised as honor." Ethan's voice was calm but firm. "Then I'll have to change the meaning of honor." Lyra's hands trembled. "My sister controls everything, the guards, the judges, even the priesthood. She will make sure you fail." Ethan looked at her, his tone softer now. "Then I'll make sure the galaxy sees her fear." For a moment, Lyra said nothing. Her heart pounded because she saw something in his eyes that the Serath rarely understood: defiance. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. Ethan moved to the window and saw 3 patrol drones hovering near the tower. Scanning the energy readings, "She's watching us," he said. His voice low, Lyra's face turned pale. "We can't talk here," she whispered. "Follow me." She pressed her hand against the wall, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. The passage was dark and cold, metal pipes running like veins through the palace. They moved silently until they reached a chamber filled with ancient statues, Serath ancestors carved from black stone. "This place is forbidden," Lyra whispered. "It's the old Hall of Origins. My sister never comes here. She fears what it represents." Ethan walked slowly through the hall, eyes tracing the carvings, figures of warriors, kings, and queens holding tablets covered in glowing alien runes. "What are these?" he asked. "The first laws," Lyra said quietly. "They were written before the Empire, before the Serath ruled the stars. One of them speaks about the balance of debts. The law says that a life saved can never be owned. It must be repaid." Ethan turned sharply toward her. "Then that's it. That's how we break her hold." Lyra shook her head. "No one has invoked those laws in thousands of years. They were buried, erased from record." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then it's time someone reminded your people what justice looks like." Before Lyra could respond, alarms blared across the palace, red lights flashing through the corridor. She froze. "She knows," she whispered. "Valyra knows we're here." They ran through the tunnels, the sound of boots and mechanical drones closing in. The walls pulsed with warning lights. Ethan grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, an electro staff, and swung it hard. Disabling the first drone that rounded the corner, sparks exploded. "Keep going!" he shouted. Lyra's cloak flowed behind her as they darted through the maze of corridors. They emerged onto a high balcony overlooking the city. The wind roared around them. A group of guards surrounded the exit. Weapons raised. "Enough!" came a cold voice. Valyra stepped from the shadows, her golden armor catching the moonlight. "You think you can run from me, human?" she said softly, her tone almost tender. "You belong to the crown." Ethan raised the staff. "Then the crown's about to learn how humans fight." The guards moved first, energy bolts flashing through the night. Ethan spun, deflecting one, striking another. His body moved with desperate precision, the rhythm of a soldier who had survived worse. Lyra gasped as a drone fired from above. Ethan dove forward, tackling her out of the way as the blast scorched the balcony wall. Valyra's patience snapped with a motion of her hand. A wave of kinetic force threw Ethan against the pillar, pain shooting through his side. "You could have lived quietly," she said coldly. "Now, you'll be an example." Ethan forced himself to his knees, blood tracing his lip. "Then let them see what happens when humans are pushed too far." Valyra's eyes glowed with fury. "So be it," she whispered. "Tomorrow the trial of suns begins, and when the twin suns rise, they will burn away your defiance." Guards seized him, dragging him back toward the tower. Lyra screamed, "Please, don't do this!" Valyra's voice echoed behind them, calm and merciless. "The law will decide his fate." As Ethan was thrown back into his chamber, bruised and bound, he stared once more through the window. The suns of Serath were beginning to rise, blazing red across the horizon. He clenched his fists, whispering to himself, "You can chain my body, but you'll never chain humanity." And far below, in the depths of the palace, ancient statues glowed faintly for the first time in centuries, as if the old laws themselves were awakening. Preparing for the storm to come, the sons of Serath climbed higher, their light burning through the silver clouds that crowned the royal palace. In the courtyard below, thousands gathered, citizens, nobles, soldiers, and traders, all eager to witness the spectacle that the Empire called justice and what Ethan Cross called his trial. Two towering obelisks shimmered with energy in the center of the arena. They were called the Sun Spears, ancient devices that focused solar fire to test the strength of those who dared to challenge Serath law. The air itself seemed alive with tension. From her grand balcony, Princess Valyra stood in ceremonial armor, gold and black like the wings of a serpent. Her voice carried across the arena through the amplifiers in the pillars. "Before the twin suns in the eyes of our ancestors, we invoke the trial of suns," she declared. "The human who defied the crown will prove his worth or burn in his arrogance," the crowd roared. But Ethan stood silent, his body still bruised, his wrists still marked by the golden seal. He looked up at the blazing orbs in the sky. feeling their heat even from miles away, and whispered to himself, "So this is what freedom costs." The floor beneath him shifted, revealing circular platforms that began to rise. Each one held a Serath champion, 6 of them, clad in shimmering armor, their eyes burning with alien fire. The announcer's voice rang through the arena. 6 champions of the crown against 1 mortal of Earth. If he survives till the final bell, the law may be reconsidered. Lyra sat hidden among the crowd, her heart racing. She had begged her sister to cancel the trial, but Valira's reply had been cold. If he dies, so be it. If he lives, the gods will judge him. The first champion moved forward. Blades humming with plasma heat, Ethan raised his hands. No weapon, no shield, just raw instinct, the champion charged. Swinging with mechanical precision, Ethan dodged, rolling across the burning floor. Grabbing a broken piece of debris, he countered. Striking the alien's wrist joint, sparks flew, and the crowd gasped as the champion fell to one knee. Ethan's movements were fast, precise, human, but unpredictable. The second came, heavier, stronger. Wielding a hammer that cracked the ground, Ethan barely avoided the blow. The heat scorched his skin, but he kept moving. Remembering every lesson from his old battles on Earth, he struck the hammer's power coil, overloading it. The explosion threw both men backward. Smoke filled the arena, and through it Valira's eyes narrowed for the first time. She felt something she had not in years, doubt. The third and fourth champions attacked together, one with speed, one with stealth. Ethan used their arrogance against them, letting one strike first, ducking so the blade caught the other's armor. The crowd erupted as both collapsed in a shower of sparks. Lyra's hand covered her mouth, tears forming. "He's winning," she whispered. Valira clenched the railing, her jaw tight. "He's surviving, not winning," she said coldly. The fifth champion descended from the sky, his armor fitted with flight thrusters. He fired plasma bolts, one after another, forcing Ethan to dive behind cover. The blasts melted the ground where he stood seconds before. Ethan waited, breathing slow, watching the pattern of the shots. Then, as the champion circled back for a final strike, Ethan threw a shard of molten glass into the air. The sunlight reflected off it, blinding the alien for a heartbeat, just enough time for Ethan to leap, grab the thruster harness, and rip it apart mid-flight. The explosion sent both of them crashing down. Ethan rolled, coughing, his clothes burned. His skin cut and bleeding, but he stood, barely. His chest heaving, only one remained, the sixth champion, the guardian of suns, clad in armor infused with radiant energy. He stepped forward, his voice deep and mechanical. "You should have died long ago, human." Ethan wiped blood from his lip. "You've been saying that all day." The guardian raised his blade. Glowing like molten light, and swung, Ethan met it with his bare arms. Catching the blade between the cuffs that bound him, the cuffs shattered from the force. Freeing him, gasps rippled through the arena. Even Valira's composure cracked. "Impossible," she whispered. Ethan's eyes burned with reflection of the sun's. "You made these cuffs to hold slaves," he said. "You forgot. Humans don't stay broken." With one final strike, he disarmed the guardian, using the alien's own momentum against him. The champion crashed to the ground, defeated. Silence filled the air, broken only by the sound of the twin suns roaring overhead. Ethan stood tall in the center of the arena, covered in ash and blood, but alive. The council members rose in disbelief. Lyra's tears spilled freely, and even Valira's mask of calm cracked for an instant. Then Ethan turned slowly toward her, his voice low but carrying to every corner of the amphitheater. "I've faced your warriors, your laws, your sons," he said. "If this is your justice, then your empire stands on fear, not honor," the crowd murmured, the whispers spreading like wildfire. Valira's eyes darkened. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice shaking the air. "You think one victory changes centuries of law?" Ethan raised his arm, the broken cuffs still sparking. "No," he said quietly, "but it starts the change." That night, word of the humans' survival spread across Serath space, in the slums, in the ships, in the far colonies. Aliens whispered his name like a legend reborn, the human who endured the suns. And in the shadows of the throne room, Valeera stared into the flames of her reflection, realizing something she had never wanted to admit. The law she used to control others might be the very chain that would destroy her. The twin sons of Serath rose in unison, blazing white fire across the blood-red sky. Their light poured down upon the grand arena, a coliseum so vast that its metal spires pierced the clouds. The chants of tens of thousands rolled like thunder, echoing through the city, and in the heart of it all stood one human, his shadow long and defiant against the light. Ethan Cross walked into the arena barefoot, the sand beneath him scorching hot. His body bore scars from 100 battles, his breath steady. The golden mark on his wrist, his symbol of servitude, still burned faintly, but inside him something far hotter burned. Resolve. At the far end stood the Council of Sons, priests in silver robes who carried the ancient relics of judgment. Valeera sat upon the high throne, her expression carved from ice. Her voice rang across the void. By decree of Serath law, the human known as Ethan Cross faces the trial of suns. If he endures till the suns meet at zenith, he earns freedom. If he falls before then, his defiance dies with him. The crowd roared, but Ethan heard only his heartbeat. A slow, calm drum beneath the chaos. From the gates below, 6 pillars of energy rose, each revealing a new terror. Mechanical beasts forged from ancient technology, their eyes glowing like twin comets, Valeera's personal creations. "Meet your judgment," she whispered. The first beast lunged, all claws and plasma. Ethan dodged, rolling beneath it, snatching a shard of metal from the ground. Sparks rained as he slashed its leg servos. A direct hit, one down, his instincts sharpened, his mind calculating every movement, every weakness. Every rhythm of the creatures built for spectacle. The second beast charged, a towering construct with wings of molten glass. It spat fire that melted the arena floor. Ethan leapt aside, grabbed the remnants of the first beast, and hurled its molten arm into the creature's mouth. The explosion tore it apart. The crowd gasped. Some shouted in anger, others in awe. From the balcony, Lyra's hands trembled as she whispered, "He's turning her trial into victory." Valeera's jaw clenched. "Not yet," she said coldly. "Release the last one." The final guardian emerged. Unlike any before, it was alive. Flesh and metal fused, pulsing with solar energy. Its roar shook the sky, its eyes fixed on Ethan with predatory intelligence. He had no weapon, no armor, only his will. The creature lunged. Ethan barely escaped the impact, rolling across the burning ground. Sweat mixed with blood, his muscles screamed. Yet his gaze never wavered. He remembered the words of Lyra from that forbidden hall. "A life saved can never be owned, it must be repaid." He looked toward Valeera, meeting her eyes through the glare of the suns. "Your law says you own what's saved," he shouted, his voice echoing across the arena. "But your ancestors said otherwise. They said no life can be chained by gratitude." The priests stirred. Confused murmurs spreading. Valeera's face hardened. "Silence!" she screamed. "Finish him!" The beast roared and leapt again. Ethan waited, timing its descent. And at the last second, he dove forward, driving a broken spear into its glowing chest. Energy surged. A shockwave erupted, throwing him high into the air. The arena went white with fire. When the smoke cleared, the beast lay motionless, split open. Ethan stood in the center, barely standing, his body scorched but alive. The suns burned at their highest point, zenith. The council rose, their faces pale with disbelief. "He has endured," one whispered. "The suns bear witness." The crowd erupted, shouts and roars filling the air. "The human lives!" Valeera's hands tightened on her throne until the metal cracked beneath her grip. Her eyes blazed with fury. "This is not over," she hissed. "The law is eternal." Ethan lifted his head, breathing hard. "No law is eternal when it's built on chains." He turned to the people, his voice rising with the strength of 1,000 battles. "You call this justice," he said. "But it's fear dressed as tradition. You enslave those who help you. You punish those who save you. But today, the sons saw something different. They saw freedom fight back." Silence swept through the crowd, then murmurs, then chants. "Freedom, freedom, freedom." Even the guards hesitated. looking to Lyra with uncertainty. Lyra pushed through them, running down to the arena. Her eyes filled with tears. "You did it!" she whispered. "You broke the trial." Ethan smiled weakly. "No, Lyra," he said. "We broke it together, high above." Lyra turned away, her cloak whipping like smoke. Her empire had not fallen, but a fracture had formed. A crack in the golden law she had ruled by as the suns began to set. Painting the sky in crimson fire, Ethan looked up, feeling the heat fade on his skin. For the first time since arriving on Sarath, he felt something close to peace. He knew the battle was not over. The war for freedom had just begun. But somewhere deep within the palace walls, the ancient symbols of the first laws began to glow again, and the whisper of old justice stirred, preparing to rise once more. The sons of Sarath were veiled by storm clouds now, a rare omen across the empire. Lightning forked through the skies, flashing against the towers of the capital as if the heavens themselves were in judgment. The city below buzzed with unease, whispers spreading through the streets like fire. The human had survived the trial of suns. In the royal palace, the air was tense. Lyra stood before her council, her golden armor dimmed by shadow, her eyes burned with cold fury. "The people cheer for a human," she said softly. "They forget who made their laws. They forget who gave them peace." An advisor bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, perhaps if we honor his victory—" "Silence," she snapped, her voice slicing through the chamber like a blade. "If I honor defiance, I destroy obedience. But outside those gilded walls," the tide was turning. Across the city plazas, alien workers spoke in low voices. Merchants refused the royal tax. Soldiers hesitated at orders, and in every whisper, one name spread: Ethan Cross, the man who stood against the suns. Ethan sat in the royal infirmary, bandaged but awake, his body aching from the trial. His thoughts were not on victory, but on what came next. Lyra stood beside him, her hands clasped tightly. "She will not forgive this," she said quietly. "My sister's pride is her crown." Ethan looked at her, his tone steady. "Then I'll take the crown from her, by her own laws." Lyra's eyes widened. "You can't," she whispered. "The law of the elder is sacred. It cannot be changed unless—" She stopped, realization dawning. "Unless," Ethan said slowly, "it's proven unjust by public decree." Lyra nodded reluctantly. "Yes? The Council of Voices, it hasn't convened in centuries. It was designed for moral disputes between kings."
"Then we'll remind them how to listen," Ethan said, his voice like quiet thunder. That night, under the twin moons, Lyra led him through hidden corridors beneath the palace. The walls hummed with old power, their inscriptions glowing faintly with runes that had not shone in generations. At the end of the hall stood a vast circular chamber, the Hall of Echoes, where the Council of Voices once met. Ethan stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the floor. What do we call them? Lyra placed her palm upon the ancient sigil, whispering words older than the empire itself. "By truth and defiance," she said. The runes blazed to life, and one by one, the spectral forms of the ancient judges appeared, tall and robed in light. Their voices echoed together. "Who calls upon the law of echoes?" Ethan stood tall. Ethan, Cross of Earth, prisoner of Sarath law, challenger of the trial of suns. The nearest judge's eyes glowed like stars. "You have endured fire and survived the will of your rulers. Speak your claim." Ethan's voice carried through the chamber, steady and fierce. "Your law says the elder owns what the younger holds, but what justice claims a savior's property? What empire chains gratitude to cruelty? I demand the right to rewrite the law." The judges turned, murmuring, "None outside the royal line may alter Sarath law." One warned. Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "Then I, Princess Lyra of Sarath, claim the right in his name." Thunder cracked outside, shaking the pillars. And then Lyra entered, her cloak sweeping behind her like a storm. "Enough," she roared. "This blasphemy ends now." Her eyes blazed as she strode toward them. "You dare twist my empire with human words?" Ethan met her gaze. "Not twist," he said calmly. "Free." She raised her hand, energy flaring, but the judges intervened. Silence. Veilira of Sereth, the law you wield binds even you. Veilira's voice quivered with rage. He is nothing but dust and blood. You would take his side over your queen. The eldest judge's gaze pierced through her. We take the side of balance, he said, and the balance has shifted. A holographic vision unfolded before the chamber. Ethan's axe, the rescue of Lyra, the trial, the defiance of sons, the chance of freedom echoing through the city. The judges spoke as one. The law of the elder is corrupted. It no longer serves justice, but fear. Veilira's breath caught, disbelief spreading across her face. You cannot. The runes flared brighter. The eldest judge raised his staff. The law of the elder is hereby revoked and replaced by the law of equality. No life may claim another. No blood may bind freedom. A shockwave of golden light rippled through the chamber, spreading across the palace and into the city. The people felt it, a pulse in their hearts, a weight lifted from centuries of silence. Veilira screamed as the golden mark on Ethan's wrist dissolved into light, the chains of ownership burning away. Ethan stood tall, the glow reflecting in his eyes. It's over, he said quietly. Veilira fell to her knees, her voice breaking. You've destroyed everything. Ethan stepped closer. No, he said, I gave your people back what you took from them, choice. Lyra turned to the judges, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? The eldest judge's voice was solemn. The law is rewritten, but every change demands balance. Outside, lightning struck the towers, splitting the skies. The sound rolled through the city like a warning. Ethan looked out toward the horizon, where the first light of dawn began to rise. Then the storm isn't over, he said softly. The judges faded into mist, leaving only their words behind, carved into the stone. No empire stands eternal when built on chains. As the light of morning touched the palace, Ethan knew what came next. Veilira would not yield forever, and the Sereth would not forgive rebellion easily. But humanity had done the impossible. They hadn't just survived the suns. They had changed them. The new dawn over Sereth was red, not with peace, but with warning. The twin suns rose like burning eyes, glaring through the storm clouds that still lingered from the night before. Their light reflected off the silver towers of the capital, each one gleaming like a blade. Below, the city was no longer silent. The people moved with a strange, electric energy. Whispers of rebellion rippled through the markets, the barracks, even the temples. In the highest spire of the palace, Ethan Cross stood beside Princess Lyra, looking down at a world trembling between two futures. The law has changed, she whispered. The chains are gone. Ethan's gaze stayed on the horizon. Laws change on paper first, he said. Hearts take longer. Below them, thousands had gathered in the streets, carrying banners of both gratitude and rage. Some chanted Ethan's name. Others demanded blood for the dishonor to the crown. The empire was splitting apart, line by line. Inside the throne hall, Veilira sat alone upon her shattered seat of crystal. Her crown lay broken beside her, her armor scorched from the power that had rejected her the night before. The shadows of the past seemed to gather around her, whispering her failures. She clenched her fists, her voice trembling with fury. He thinks he's freed my people, she hissed, but without chains, there is only chaos. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward, an admiral cloaked in black armor, his eyes burning beneath the mask. Your Majesty, he said, bowing, the fleets still serve you. The army waits for your word. Veilira's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. Then give the order, she said. If they worship the human, let them see his salvation burn. Moments later, the skies above the capital ignited. Hundreds of warships rose from their docks, engines glowing red, their cannons aimed not at the stars, but at the city itself. Lyra gasped as the first explosion shook the ground. No, she wouldn't. Ethan turned sharply, eyes narrowing. She would, he said. She's burning her own world to keep her throne. He raced through the corridors, alarms blaring, soldiers shouting. The palace trembled as beams of plasma struck the outer walls. Lyra ran beside him, her cloak torn, her voice trembling. The people are panicking. They're looking to you now. Ethan stopped, turning to her. Then it's time they saw what humanity means. They burst into the communications chamber, holograms flickering with chaos. Fleeing ships, desperate voices, Lyra's command echoing through all channels. Restore order by fire if you must. Ethan slammed his hand on the console, overriding the signal. This is Ethan Cross of Earth, he said, his voice cutting through the static. To the soldiers of Sereth, your queen fights to keep her fear alive. You fight for survival, not loyalty. Stand down. The message spread like wildfire. Some ships hesitated, captains glancing at each other. The chain of command began to fracture. But the admiral's voice broke through the static. Traitorous words, he snarled. We serve the throne. A bright beam of light streaked through the sky. One of Valera's dreadnoughts descending, weapons charged. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm. We can't stop them all. Ethan looked toward the window, watching the sky burn. No, he said softly, but we can remind them what power truly is. He activated the beacon embedded in his wrist, the one thing the Sereth had overlooked. A pulse of blue light shot into the heavens, silent and pure, and then the void above the planet shimmered. Stars blinked and moved. Out of the darkness emerged human warships, black and silver, hundreds of them, engines pulsing like the heartbeat of a rising god. The Sereth fleet froze in formation, their targeting systems flickering, their sensors filled with warnings as human dreadnoughts dwarfed their vessels. From the lead ship came a voice, calm, steady, and unmistakably human. This is Earth Fleet Command, responding to the signal of one of our own. The sky itself seemed to hold its breath. Lyra rose from her throne, eyes wide. No, impossible. Humanity was weak, scattered. Her admiral stepped back, trembling. They're not weak anymore. Ethan's voice echoed through every open channel. We came to your world in peace. We saved your princess. We endured your trial. And we changed your law, he said. Now we'll save your people from your fear. The Sereth fleet wavered, some lowering their weapons, some fleeing, but a few fired defiantly toward the human armada. The response was swift, blinding. Human ships activated mirror shields, absorbing the blasts and redirecting the energy harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. The sky became a canvas of light and silence. Lyra stared in awe. Your people came for you. Ethan shook his head slowly. No, he said, they came for us. Down in the city, citizens began cheering as the bombardment stopped. The fire faded into rain, washing the ash from the streets. Ethan descended into the plaza, surrounded by soldiers, workers, and children, all staring at him with a mix of reverence and disbelief. He looked at them, not as conquerors or saviors, but as equals. The sons of Sereth once burned as symbols of rule, he said loudly. Now they rise for freedom. Keep them burning bright, not in chains, but in choice. Above, the human and Sereth banners hung side by side, shimmering under the twin suns. And in the shadows of her broken palace, Lyra watched through cracked glass, tears mixing with fury. He didn't destroy me, she whispered. He replaced me. Her reflection glimmered faintly, half in light, half in fire. The story of the human who broke the suns had just become legend. As night fell again, the two moons rose over a world reborn. And somewhere deep within the stars, the human fleet vanished back into the void, leaving behind not conquest,